Guys, thanks for joining us for episode 21 on the Real Estate Huddle. Can't believe we've had that many times here now. It's been a lot of fun talking about the Denver metro area. We also talk about just some fun places to go visit and see the real estate, what's going on in the community, and a little bit of realtor talk too, just as far as like our experiences working with people and that sort of thing. And so today we're going to talk about different personality types that we work with in the business and how we try to cater what we do from a service standpoint to those different personality types, and how important that is to help people feel like they're being helped and served in the way that they need it. And so everybody's, well, not everybody. Some people have heard of the DISC profile test. It's like a personality test where it basically checks out what type of a person you are. What if you're more dominant in nature, if you're more of a people person in nature, if that's your priority, if you're more like sense of security and stability is more your thing, or if you're highly detailed and that sort of thing. So basically it asks you, I don't know how many questions. April, how many questions do you think?
I think it was 60.
60
Did
questions.
you do
or
it
so?
recently?
I did it recently for the first time ever, and I loved it. I mean, and I couldn't figure out how it described me at the end. I mean, it was as if it was talking about me personally. Mm-hmm. And the questions I don't even know how I did it based on the choices I had to answer and stuff, but it was pretty incredible.
That's cool. That's awesome. So
I've done variations. I'm not sure I've actually ever done DISC. Did you have us all do DISC?
I thought so.
Oh, maybe I did. Okay. Yeah.
I've got one for you. You can do it.
No, I guess that was the last time I did it. But there are others that I used in corporate life where they tend to be pretty similar, but they're sometimes a little shocking how well they nail you.
Yeah, it's incredible. So based on those questions, it's just kind of asking you, like, what are you most like in these situations, right? And then you get down to it.
Now I remember.
And, and it really helps. So like in real estate, we don't have the ability to give a person a DISC test before we work with them. That would be kind of awkward and weird. Like, we'll work with you to buy or sell a house, but we need you to take this test first so we know how to treat you. That's not how it goes ever. And so you kind of have to identify some things about people, and so one of the things that I've learned over time is whenever you walk into a home to go for a listing appointment, the first step is typically to take a tour of the house. And so if you walk in and you say, awesome, well, hey, who's gonna show me around, give me a tour? Usually the person that's the more dominant personality within a couple will be the one that will step up and say, oh yeah, I'll take you, come here, follow me, and they'll start leading the tour. And that's kind of a good way to know, like, who is the person that's more, I guess, the decision maker or more like dominant in the relationship. Is just a little trick that I learned over time, but it tends to be pretty true.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to try out.
Well, there's a whole second layer, so one spouse lets someone do that knowing that that's what they want to do, yet they actually have much more control in the final. So you're going to second chapter.
Totally. Yeah. So, we can just kind of break down the DISC though and just talk about we've worked with people that are more dominant and more of a driver type A. You hear that terminology as well, personality. And those people are interesting. I mean, we've, especially like in the luxury seller world, I've worked with quite a few of those. And one of the things type A people want is control. They want control over how their home looks on the internet, how it looks online, and how it's displayed, how it's marketed. They want details on how you're going to execute, your plan. And so those are opportunities for us to get very detailed, help them ask the right questions, right? One thing I'd like to ask is, hey, how involved would you like to be in the photo order of your home, of how your home appears online, right? I know how to order photos, and I've done this several times, but how involved would you want to be in your home specifically? And I've had sellers who, my first learning experience from this was just posting a luxury listing, and then my homeowners were fuming because there was an oil stain in the driveway that they didn't want seen. And that I just missed it. I didn't see that was an ugly thing. It really didn't bother me much, but it bothered them, right? Yeah. Because homeowners know no one's a bigger critic of their own home than them, right? They know their home inside, outside, and backwards, and so they notice everything. And so it's about obviously doing what's right from a marketing standpoint, but also like the most important thing is making the homeowner happy about how their home looks online. And so that question saved me ever since then, as far as just asking them, how involved would you like to be in this process? And I've had the next couple times that I've represented luxury homeowners that are, north of $1 million typically in our market, the type A ones, they want to have either a meeting with you to go over like, hey, here's how I want it to look. Here's my photo order. I don't like that drone shot. It doesn't show my house right. It makes it look like we're backing to this or, whatever. And they want to be a part of that. They want to be involved and in control of how that looks. And they do not like surprises when it's posted and they look at it and go, nobody consulted me about this. Nobody went over this. It's my house, That's a big difference, right?
Spending a lot of time, like what percentage of your clients fall into that bucket?
Yes.
10%.
Yeah, not very
Okay.
much.
And is it
Small percentage.
usually the north of $1 million, or is it?
A lot of times it is. A lot of times it is just a little more type A personality that's become very successful in life because they're very concerned about those details and they live their life on purpose.
Very true.
With a lot of structure, and that's just. Those people you have to serve a little bit differently than others. And so I've learned to just have a greater sense of detail on that. And then, go ahead.
Oh, no, having taken that test, I know where I fall. And I am so the opposite of that. Like I would hire somebody that I trust and say, nope, it's all you. I trust you. You're the professional.
Totally.
You do what you think's fit. And I don't need to be a part of it, the picture order or,
absolutely.
That's just my personality though.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that.
Yep. And I would say most people fall in that higher I or S category, which to define that, like with the disc, the high I's are people, right? They just love being around people.
So do you remember all of us on the team? Do you remember us? Do you think of us?
Yeah, no, I know.
So what am I?
Well,
I'm heavily I, of course.
Now you're making me wonder. I'm like
no, I know we did. I totally remember it now, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly where I scored.
Yeah, but I think you were higher on the details on the C, and a little higher on the D than others on the team as far as just being a little more. You like to. One of the things that stood out about yours, Chad, was theoretical. Like that was the one of your.
So it drives you crazy to this day?
No, it doesn't drive me crazy. I just think you like to explain where you're coming from and have opinions about things, and I think it's great.
I think I was negative on that.
Yeah, on the lower side.
I was like too.
Well,
some people are very individualistic.
Yeah.
And
not to confuse the situation, but like part of this, we spent a lot of time, thinking about how you have the first conversation and how is that first conversation? Is it better via text? You learn a lot just as you start to form this relationship. And there are certain people,
for sure,
when they give you a no thank you or a sure to response in text, that's communicating.
Yeah.
You've got other people who really want to ruminate and talk on the phone.
Yep.
So we get a good sense for these people before we're in the,
no question,
taking photos and such.
Yeah, and the disc does correlate with their communication style as well. Like the high I's, like you, April, and I'm also I'm a really high I, and so is Spencer and Kim as well. There's a lot of us on the team, and realtors in general are really high I's.
I think
We
you need to be.
love to be around people.
Yeah.
And we tend to be more aesthetic in the way that we communicate, where we care not so much what's said, but how it's said.
Absolutely.
And
I agree with that.
the way that you phrase things in text, or have this fear of like coming off as a jerk or like. That sort of thing, being too short with people.
Thing, though, and delivery, for me, the way I take it from people, delivery is almost more important than what's actually said. Is how it's said, the tone it's said in.
Yep.
All of that is super important.
Totally. And you can imagine, right, working with a client like that expects that kind of communication, and then a realtor that's being like more of a driver type realtor that's just being short with their communication. And they're less aesthetic, and and don't care so much how things are said, how that can rub someone the wrong way or feel like they're kind of working with a jerk of an agent or they don't really care about me sort of a thing.
Right.
The feelings that they have towards their agent are not going to be pleasant. And so that communication style is so important to kind of understand who you're working with.
Yeah.
There's a few questions we like to ask before every appointment just to gauge who we're working with. And one of those is what are you most excited about with this process, whether it's buying or selling? I like to hear, if they start talking about, I'm just excited to start making money on a home instead of wasting money on rent, then I know they're more linear logical. They're thinking about numbers, dollars. They're not thinking as much about, maybe his wife that's talking about, oh, I just can't wait to see the flowers bloom outside my front door. Like it's more emotional. It's more, they have a higher eye, typically more, excited about the kind of art around a home, you know, to say it.
And that's why, for me personally, coming from the commercial side, it was very like that, all the data, the numbers,
So the same percentage that he said was, well, no, I'm not sure it's the same thing, but they're going to fall in a much higher percentage into the driver. Like,
yes,
show me the numbers. Like
I'm more of the eye that likes to, I get excited about new houses and it's where they're going to live and it's emotional and it's, colors and commercial world doesn't do that. So this is fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so that's kind of how we've talked a little bit about treating high eyes. How about a high eye and a person that is really emotional about how they go about things? If they get under contract on a house and you just text them and say, hey, you're under contract, congrats.
Yeah.
That's not going to be enough for them, right? They want you to call them and they want to hear your voice and hear the excitement in your voice, the tone, everything, right? It's like, guys, I have great news. You're under contract. Congratulations. I'm so
you show
excited for you.
excitement, they're automatically going to get excited.
They're going to love you. They're going to love you for it. And so, but someone that is maybe a little more like Spock, right? Like linear, logical in nature, they don't care.
Yeah,
like
that's great. So what next? How many days until the next?
Yeah,
thing?
They're on to the next thought. Yeah, like how many? Yeah, exactly. When's the inspection? Yep. So it's understanding how to serve those people and communicate in their style. I think it really sets us apart because we work on that. We talk about that. We role play on that. And that's something that I think, makes us a little bit, better to work with than other agents out there.
So we can't give them a disc test, but we can ask certain questions to kind of help us identify.
Back to that.
Yeah,
so I started with the first one, right? What are you
Mm-hmm.
most excited about?
Yeah.
The second question that I always like to ask is, what are you most fearful about during this process? Like, is there anything that scares you? Mm-hmm. And talk about their fears. Because again, if they're saying things like, oh man, I'm nervous about, just the payment, what the payment's going to look like. You kind of know where their focus is and where you need to focus your efforts. Like budget is key, so we need to make sure that we're hitting the price point and that we're emphasizing that with our communication. We're concerned about your budget, and nobody knows your budget better than you do.
Right.
So we want to hit that. What's comfortable for you as far as a payment goes? And let's line that up with a price point. So that can be an area of focus. Sometimes people will say that they're nervous about finding the right house. They just don't. They're doubting that they'll find the right place with the inventory out there. So there's just and on the sales side, sometimes they're nervous about the process as far as how are we going to show the house with kids and dogs and all the things going on in life. So it's the process as far as now that I know that, then I'm going to help you make this smooth. We'll see what can we do to make this the smoothest process as possible. Like, let's recommend that why don't you just take off and go to Great Wolf Lodge for the weekend and, we'll show the house while you're gone and run an open house and get a ton of people through here and it'll be sold by the time you get back. And let's price it here.
Because that's what we say, right?
Yeah.
That's really smart though, because everybody, no matter where they fall on the spectrum of the personalities, everybody has anxiety about something.
So I think
you can just find it.
What Landon has taught us and tries to get it out early, right? Mm-hmm. I will counter that like I try to internalize that because don't go there or they love this or anything in between. Yep. But I also try to be me. Mm-hmm. Like I cannot be a terse, unemotional. I just can't do it. So why try? Yeah. So I can still be my goofy self or humor self, because they'll get used to that, and then you soften them up, and you get
Yeah.
the underside of people who think they're all rigid, and you find
Yep.
that one corny joke they laugh at, and then, you've
and
changed.
run with it.
So I try to play it from both sides. Let
Yeah.
them get to know me, but also really ask the right questions so you understand what really gets them going, what really scares them
Yeah,
off.
and that's a good point, because some listeners might be thinking like, well, I don't want to lose my authenticity. Like, I am who I
Yeah.
am. But the reason I would say, like, you are who you are, but the people you work with are all different, and they need a different communication style. So you have to, you can be who you are and talk about the things, the experiences you have and that sort of thing. But you have to really listen and understand people and cater to their needs, or else you're not going to deliver happiness for those people. You're not going to represent them properly. And so I think you have to be a chameleon a little bit in
Yeah,
that
a
way.
little bit, and
Certainly on the front end.
yeah, and just be adaptable and be able to tweak certain things. Maybe pull back a little bit if they're more reserved, or.
Yep.
But as long as I think you can do that, then I think you can have success with any client.
Yep, no question.
Well, there's also these transitionary periods when you get to know someone on the phone.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to go about it a certain way. The questions may be different. When you sit down that first time, cup of coffee, dinner, and you start asking these same questions, then you just be you, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because
exactly.
they're going to mirror you. Human beings are human beings. If you put a very positive, they will
Yep.
mirror you the same way you're trying to do for them.
Yep. And the third question that I like to ask is the most telling. This is the one that will bring in the most information. And it is, have you had a previous experience, good or bad, with a realtor?
Okay.
And that if they've already worked with someone, they'll tell you, and in a lot of cases, they'll just say, yeah, it's a good one. I liked him. It's good.
Why aren't you working on
Did
it
you
now?
love it?
And then, you can ask them, like, was there anything missing? Was there anything that you just weren't extremely happy about, or something like that, just to find out. Because sometimes people will say, like, it'll give you a ton of insight. It tells you directly how to serve them, right? How they're going to be happy with you, helping them as your agent. And so, like, some people will say, this is a common one. No, my agent, like, I felt like I was doing everything. My agent didn't go out and look at the houses for me. I found the house. I did everything. The agent just got me through the door, sort of a thing. So you'll hear that sometimes. And then holy cow, like, I've got to up my game on searching for the properties. They don't really like searching for properties, apparently. Like, I need to step that up and be the one out there being assertive and leading the way as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And you'll have others, like, other answers may be, like, we feel like our agent just got beat up in price, and the negotiations didn't really have our back. Some of them will even say, like, I heard my agent say this to the other agent and I didn't like it because it felt like they were throwing us under the bus or something. We've heard that a lot.
Really?
Yeah. And so with that, keep in mind there's a lot of bad agents out there, right? And so, like, not all realtors are created equal. I hope people understand that, because there are a lot of agents that just don't keep up their fiduciary responsibility to their clients. But the ones that say that, I know negotiation is key during that transaction. Like, I've got to nail it with the negotiation, and I need them to feel that I truly have their back the entire time. And that's how it should be anyways, right? But emphasizing that with your communication, now that you know that, that was important to them.
And I would, some clients probably want you to over communicate with them, and some probably are like, I work 50 hours a week. I can't take your 10 calls every day.
Well, that's the question where you feel them out. Like, what works best?
Exactly.
Like, you want just an update text?
Yep.
Like,
don't wanna bug
but
them,
I'm
but you
always
also-
free at 7:30. We're done with
Yep.
dinner. Call me. So you get all types.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So understanding that, we haven't addressed, like, the last two disc types, right? So the high S's value stability, structure. They don't like surprises. They like to be prepared for what's coming so that they can get their emotions ready for that. They're not risk takers. A lot of them are very easygoing in some cases, but stressed. They tend to, be earnest and honest people a lot of times. They don't fly by the seat of their pants. They like to plan and have things planned. And so if you're setting up inspection the night before, right, and they can feel that, like, whoa, this seems like last minute, or, hey, do you want to go see a house in an hour? That's not going to work for them. They need a little more planning time to be prepared mentally to go see this place and feel like. Also, the other thing that's not going to work for them is, we just saw this house. Do you want to make an offer? Some of these people, they need a little bit of time to think about it. More rocking horse mentality, right? Where they're just like, let us sit on this. I want to sleep on it. In some markets, they can do that.
Yeah.
Right. In
Yeah.
other markets, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to communicate that, but you got to be way careful with your communication and helping them understand that, guys, it's not me that's pushing you. But if we wait till tomorrow, this home is probably gone. Yeah. And so just
Gotta
help
learn how to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're one of those pushy agents that's just saying, guys, you don't have tonight, you got to decide now, they're going to hate you. They're not going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
I can't commit that this is the best approach, but sometimes you have to lose a house to get through that reluctance.
Totally. Yeah.
We've thought about it, and we think we're ready to talk about an offer. It's under contract.
Yeah. Yep. And they'll learn. The market will teach them, but
Well,
we don't
that's-
necessarily.
I
have
hope
to
it
teach
comes
them.
across
Yeah.
as them learning from the market.
Market,
Yep.
yeah, and it's not,
But
we have
sometimes-
nothing to do.
Yeah.
It does create the balance in our own relationship. and we do.
Totally. Yeah.
So in your experience, how quickly after meeting a new client are you able to determine where they fall into?
Yeah. So
Just a couple visits?
in
or-
that initial meeting, either listing appointment or buyer appointment, usually we know quite a bit about their communication style by those 3 questions that we ask, and then also asking about like Chad was saying, how do you prefer to be communicated with? Those things are just so telling. They tell you a lot when they answer those questions, and you can know from most people pretty quick. I've only had a few that like surprise me later and like, I thought you were like this and now you're like this. But addressing the last one, which is the high C's, right? So C's on the disc are highly detailed. We're talking about sometimes it's the engineers of the world, right? It's those types of people that are more numbers based. They don't miss things. So what is going to irritate them in a real estate transaction? If you miss something, like even something on the contract that's like, shoot, I wrote the earnest money in wrong, right? Or something that seems minor to someone else, but like for them that are highly detailed, they're like, what else are you gonna miss? If you miss that, what else are you? So it's so important to dot your I's, cross your T's, like make sure everything is kind of checklist, like you've done everything, looked it over a couple times. I always, when I'm working with someone like that, I will go back and read my email I'm about to send to them 2 or 3 times to make sure there's no typos, because that just comes off as sloppy, and the respect for you will go down immediately if they see that you're not a detailed person. And there are very few of these people in the world that are really highly detailed. But the ones that you work with, you have to cover those things and over prepare, like Peyton Manning prepare, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that you're ready for those appointments. I do have a story to tell. There's a guy, Pete, if you're listening, love you, man. He's a forensic accountant, one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. And he interviewed like 6 or 7 agents when he sold his house. It was actually his mom's or sister's, I think it's mom's place in Lakewood that I sold. And I met with him. I was referred by my inspector, actually. Inspect Bro, shout out to you guys. But they referred me to Pete, and I got to meet with Pete. I sat down. I was one of the last ones he had met with. He'd met with all these other agents that had gone through and just kind of flipped through the pages and showed them, like, here are the comps. Here's where I think you're at. This is what you should do. This is the price. And he said, they didn't take a whole lot of time on it. I came in, my book was all marked up, and I had, from 0 to 10, I ranked every home based on location, condition. I'd looked at every picture. I'd looked at every map. I'd looked at all the adjustments. I'd made those adjustments on there. I showed him why, not just what, but why. I had my opinion of value. And this forensic accountant that spends a living on the details, closed the book, and he said, I'm working with you. He's on the spot. He just said that nobody else did their homework like you did. You did your homework, no brainer. I'm going with you. And we've been friends ever since. He's a great guy, and we've been able to have a lot of fun talking about that. And he's introduced me to some great gangster movies too, which have been great. I'm just kidding.
Because that's a logical extension, right?
That sounds like the beginning of Ozark.
Right.
That's
The
true.
accountant.
Well, it's a little
Yeah.
Elliot Ness and
Right.
Scarface.
But no, I learned so much from that
awesome.
experience. So working with different people will really show you different ways that you it sounds weird, but like to win people over, right? Like to your way of thinking and to working with you and trusting you is all about understanding who they are and then catering your service to those people. And I think the more that we do that, the better we make people feel. And to quote Zappos owner, Tony Shea, I think is his name, deliver happiness. Like everything you do, every person you work with, you want to deliver happiness to that situation, and don't make it complicated for them or make them do things they don't want to do, but like really deliver a happy, smooth transaction, and people love you for that, and then they refer you business. So this probably a good one for a lot of realtors out there to listen to. I don't know how much value the normal civilians out there are getting from this, but hopefully it's been some good content you guys have enjoyed, and if nothing else, go take a disc test. They're awesome, and they're very
Or if you've
insightful.
taken one, go remind yourself what your scores were.
Exactly. Yeah, you can always. I mean, you take it 5 years later, and sometimes it's totally different than what you had before. So
Growth.
it's kind of interesting, just based on what's happened to you in life and
Yeah.
where you're at. And they not only the disc, but also the motivators. The motivators are
Yes.
what where you scale compared to everybody else as far as a communicator, your style there, how much you like
That was
money,
my favorite part.
power. Yeah.
I mean, it literally, I should hand out my copy of my results to everybody I know, because it tells them how to talk to me and how not to talk to me.
Right.
And it was spot on.
Well, I will give you a little tangential related story, but in a past life, we ran contact centers and we had outbound salespeople on the phone every time. And we strove to teach similar concepts. It wasn't DISC, but it was the same sort of 4-quadrant, to try to get out of the person you are calling on the phone to better present your pitch. Really hard on a phone conversation. Obviously, we didn't get there, but it stayed with us to understand, who are you talking to? Did you present it the right way? Do you need to be more detailed, far less detailed? Ask more questions, or just ask one and shut up and listen?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest challenges in sales
is.
is how to truly actively listen and not be thinking about the next thing you're going to say while they're talking. Right?
And the desire to say, this is me,
Yeah.
as much as we'd like to do that, it's not always practical. But
Yeah, but with your friends,
right.
they should see that.
I feel
to
like
know.
the day
People
before
should
my
not say to April if I don't want to
Yeah.
get slapped.
Exactly. You need to warn them.
the day before my wedding, my wife and I took Myers-Briggs. That's what our reverend had us do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We still refer to it.
Oh, that's really neat.
It's great. Yeah, we did the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, that book, and
love
test is
that
awesome.
book.
Yeah, it's so good. And
And
like that,
it's so insightful too.
it is. It changed our marriage. Like just
Oh, yeah.
understanding, because you try to love people the way that
The way
you want to
wanna
be loved. Yeah.
Yes.
So
And
it's
sometimes
all,
it's not what they need or what they want. And
Yep.
that book is very good.
yeah,
never
it
read
knocks
that
out of the
book.
park. Yeah, it's great. So thanks for joining us today, you guys. We're excited that you had a chance to listen up. Remember to click the subscribe button if you want to hear more content like this, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
So if you have enjoyed what you're listening to and you'd like to hear more, make sure to press that subscribe button so that you can not miss out on any more episodes that are coming up. And also check out all of our contact information is below. You can see us at the dreamsmithteam.com to look up more information about our team and our history and all of the members of our team, and see contact information that you can reach us if you have any real estate needs.
See you next time.